name's Maya Brock. I'm in grade 11 and I've been at ISA for around 5 months. I come from Alberta, Canada, and I've been having a lot of fun with this art class over these past couple of months. The first question that was asked was if I could explain the color choice related to sound in Alberta. Well, in regards to sound, I was at first going to see if I could incorporate some Canadian music, possibly the Canadian anthem, but as I went on with the project, I slowly ran out of time and wasn't able to fit in the musical aspect of this piece that I was initially wanting to. But with the colors, I used a variety of bright colors to represent how I personally felt about Alberta, rather than colors and shapes that specifically represented it in a stereotypical way. I use bright colors to symbolize all of the emotions that have surfaced, good or bad. For example, the brighter colors in the middle represent the happier times in my life, compared to the darker colors such as the gray and dark green representing the darker times in my life. I also wanted to incorporate the color green as it is a color representing mental health, and mental health is something myself and the rest of my family has dealt with. The second question that was asked was if I could explain the challenges faced in the appropriate shapes to convey the idea/image of my home, Alberta. When trying to choose my shapes, I focused on similar shapes to Kandinsky's Composition 8 artwork, such as the big black ring in the left corner. The biggest challenge I faced was trying to get the shapes of Alberta while still using similar shapes to Kandinsky and finding the perfect orientation. After a couple of trials, I finally found the perfect one, incorporating the Alberta shape and Kandinsky's shapes. The third question that was asked was what shapes and colors would you have used for another Canadian province, such as Quebec, and whether or not other Canadians would recognize these shapes. As I did for Alberta, I would use bolder lines and shapes for the outline so that the outline of the province becomes the main focus. The first question that was asked in regards to this project was how does using shoes as my canvas alter the message of my work and or make it more powerful and meaningful? Well, doing the project on the shoes allows for the meaning and the symbolism of the koi fish to be carried wherever the shoes are worn. That was my initial intention, and I wanted this message to be spread all over. My thinking behind this idea was that the shoes allow luck and fortune to be spread no matter where or what the situation is leading to. The second question for this project that was asked was, in light of the COVID-19 situation, how does the fish of fortune and luck relate to the global situation going on right now? And specifically, this project does not relate to the COVID-19 situation, as it was something that I started before it got serious, but right now the virus is making many people feel unlucky and unfortunate, and so I wanted to bring more positivity, and by creating these artworks and these fish, I was spreading more positivity to the people who may need them, even if they just simply saw the project. The last question that was asked for this project was what was the most challenging aspect of creating this work of art? How does working on a shoe compare to a canvas? Well, I would say the hardest part of creating the shoe was actually painting the shoe, specifically the water and the fish. I found it quite difficult to get small details and contain my control as I was working on a rough surface and it was not stretched flat like it would be on a canvas. But eventually, as I worked on in the project, it became easier and I got the hang of it. I found the second shoe that I did had better results as the first shoe, as I was able to finally get the hang of what I was doing. And it was also very difficult to work on a smaller area, whereas if I worked on a canvas, I would have a bigger surface area to work on. I'm not used to doing smaller projects like this, and so it was definitely something out of my comfort zone, but I really enjoyed the work.
Camille. I'm in 12th grade. I am from Colorado, Denver, Colorado, but I just moved here almost a year ago, so I've only been at ISA for a year. So for the answers to my questions, thank you so much, Mr. Klopp, for giving me some questions to answer. The first question was, is this your first dress you have made, or have you done this thing before? How did you know exactly where to make the stitchings, etc.? So this was the first dress that I've ever made. It was really, really difficult, but I was so lucky because I had the help of a seamstress who I visited once a week, and she would watch me while I made the dress. So if I was making a mistake or something, then she could help me out. So it was really, really helpful to have her, and the dress would not have turned out as well if she wasn't there to help me and guide me and make sure I was doing everything right. The second question is, what are the religions that the woman in faith is considering, and can you further explain how the blue orb is symbolic of moral guidance? So in faith, in the painting faith, there aren't necessarily specific religions in which the woman is considering. The blue orb is symbolic of all religions, which is what she's considering, and it's symbolic of it in one energy, and that's kind of how it ties in with moral guidance. So just kind of going a little deeper into it, she's looking upwards to God in whatever form that takes. And in this context, the blue is associated with truth seeking, and the shape, which is an organic circle, is representative of natural love and power. So the moral guidance is supposed to be something that gives her a sense of belonging, which is something that I think people strive to feel. And religion is something that she can find comfort in and identify with. So overall, the moral guidance and the idea of religion is the exterior, but looking more into it, psychologically, it's a young girl who's looking for something that she can identify with to guide her through her life and give her comfort and give her belonging. So yeah, and the next question is, in A Monster Looking into the Mirror, which aspect of the painting symbolizes the social media that is being discussed? So there's two ways in which the social media aspect is being shown. Firstly, the mirror, it kind of acts as a frame and it looks like a photo or a snapshot, which is, what people upload to social media. And secondly is her distorted body. So people use apps like Photoshop to alter their bodies and make themselves look like they fit the social norm and the trends. But this screen print is focusing on it at a more extreme level, and it's showing the unrealistic image of people, what their bodies and their faces look like, which is portrayed in media. So there's the answer to that question. Lastly, as Dream of You is inspired by the coronavirus lockdown, did you have all the supplies you needed at home? How did you make the arrangements to have everything you needed? So right before the lockdown, I went to school and I picked up some supplies, and I didn't know exactly what my project was going to look like or what it was going to be. I just knew that I wanted to do a painting. So based on my experience with the last painting, I got the materials that I needed. And yeah, so thank you so much. I really hope you enjoy the work. It took a lot of time and a lot of effort, but thank you so much for looking at it. And yeah, thank you.
Hi, my name is Juhi. I'm in 11th grade, and I've been in ISA for about 3 years. And I'm from South Korea. So far, I've been spending more time on my painting and drawing skills during quarantine. So my first question was asking, how does the inclusion of the word protect in several languages on the mask affect the overall message on the artwork? So I intended to use the mask that represent the several languages from the countries that have the worrying trend of the tigers listed as their endangered animal. The countries Korea, China, Malaysia are represented by the use of the languages that are printed on the mask. This question is also about the screen print. In what ways does the simplistic use of colors reinforce the meaning of the powerful image? So these colors I used are intended to show a stronger tone, but in the end the colors were not as strong as I wanted them to be when I made the print. So I still think it works, but I would rather created a stronger contrast of the mask and stripes of the tiger. Not only the language, but also the word protection in different languages shows how the tigers wants to communicate and tell the humans that they should get protected as they are endangered, but they cannot say anything because they are trapped by the masks which are shown. And since they cannot communicate, it is written in the mask to show how much they need to be protected since they are covered and trapped from the mask. This is a question on my hawksbill amulet. Where did you get the inspiration for this particular arrangement? So the display was inspired from a Tiffany window display that I researched. So this company is one of the famous jewelry brands, and I felt like it was a clever way to use the eggshells as a part of the idea of the turtles shaped the jewelry. My display also demonstrates how the habitats of the sea turtles are destroyed by the use of broken shells. As in our daily basis, we use a lot of plastic and sometimes we don't even recycle them, and these are all the causes that leads to the ocean pollution, which is our duty to take care of the environment and the ocean pollution. This third question was on my trapped skeletons. Are you implying in this piece of work that animals can also protect humans from danger? If so, in which ways? So the net around and the skeletons are representing how the marine animals are trapped in the ocean from the ocean pollution we create. I believe it is our duty to be aware of how our actions and the use of plastics affects the marine animals. So this is another question about the trapped skeletons. What goal did you want to achieve by highlighting several parts of the skeleton in that thick layer of oil paint? So the highlighted areas are detecting the affected parts from the ocean pollution. So these colors are inspired by the colors from the thermal camera, which I was going to use. The thickening helps them stand out more to show how they are affected from us.
Hi, I'm Hannah Ray. I moved here about 4 months ago from Canada. It's been really tough with this whole lockdown happening, and the fact that I had to leave my friends from back home, and I now can't even see my friends from here. It's hard, but we all keep in touch, and I feel like that's my way of kind of getting through this, is that we're all staying in touch It is really difficult and hard, but we'll get through it, and hopefully this will all be over soon. Mr. West did my questions. For my first painting, Bright Lights, first question was, I like that you use Richer's scraping technique on the three of the buildings, but why only on those and not the Calgary Tower? The reason was because I wanted the Calgary Tower to stand out more and not blur off into the background, being a big part of my home city that I grew up in. The image kind of reminds me of home in a way, even though I didn't visit the tower often. I would go downtown with my friends a lot, and it just kind of is to make it stand out more because of how much that city stood out for me and how I am today and how my friends helped me become who I am today. Next question on the same painting is, what were some of the challenges completing this piece on multiple boards, and how did you deal with those challenges in the process? A challenge definitely was that if the boards move in the middle building would be all messed up. But I solved this problem by taping the boards together when I was taping off the buildings so that I could get nice crisp lines and then scrape over top of the paint. Some of the newspaper clippings used have very distinct world events, which are easily readable. How did you choose what to include for the newspaper backgrounds, and do they add additional meaning to my piece? Well, I chose those particular articles because they were from the year 1952, which is the year that the comic was drawn and created. And those events were kind of what summed up that year. A lot of them was UFO sightings, which I found a little interesting, and that the king was dead. The ballet found the king dead. Second question is, Charlie Brown is a world-renowned and lovable cartoon character. What albums did you envision he is so proud to have here? Well, I didn't really envision him having specific albums. I thought of Charlie Brown more or less as myself. As the fact is, I actually used my own photos for the painting because I have my own record collection. And the reason I have him pulling out the Animals record is because that is my oldest record, closest to 1952. And it's the oldest one I own.
Hello, my name is Hannah, and the theme which I'm focusing on is dementia. I'll be answering some questions about my exhibition. So the first one is, can you tell me more about your overall theme? It seems to me to be about who people are and how they're perceived. Am I at all close with my generalization? So I actually had to change my theme after my first two pieces. I changed my theme from the way it all fits in to dementia. I did this because my first theme was too broad and I had to focus it a lot more because I was struggling on making deeper connections to my art. But I have been focusing a lot on the human mind, on how it works and how it stops working, and always trying to highlight how people are perceived, especially those who suffer from dementia. The second one is, you've used gold to represent the diseases of Alzheimer's and dementia. Can you explain why you chose something so beautiful to represent something so awful? So I just want to clarify that dementia is an umbrella term that covers Alzheimer's, Huntington's disease, frontotemporal dementia, and many more others. I chose gold exactly for the reason that people who suffer from dementia are usually considered less valid than others, just because people assume that they've lost their mind or their body control. But by using gold, which is usually considered a rich and beautiful thing, I'm trying to bring awareness that they're just as important as other people, and that those organs that stopped working were really important at a certain point of the person's life. For example, their mind might have stopped working, but their mind carries all of their memories of their life. The third question is, you've used very different techniques / mediums with your work: screen print, plaster, origami, photography, and painting. Which did you enjoy working with most, and why? So I've tried to stay out of my comfort zone with my mediums, which I say is photography and acrylic, because I want to make my exhibition as 3D as I can. I want my audience to feel like there's more than a painting there. And at the end of the day, I am representing a mental disease, and I feel like I have to honor that by trying to bring awareness to it as well. I would definitely say that I enjoyed working the most with the screen print, because it was my first time doing it as well, when we went to Peacock's Visual Arts, and I had a lot of fun doing it, and I loved experimenting with different colored papers on the same design. So I'm definitely looking forward to working with it again, focusing more on the theme of dementia. And the final question is, which pieces of your work do you think will have the most impact on your future work, and why? So I definitely feel like it will be the piece called Little Miss Perfect, which is the one with the plaster masks, because it's about the parts of the body that have been affected by the dementia, and I feel like from that piece I can pull out so many more ideas. For example, I used my face to further emphasize the deformity that dementia can cause. And I can maybe do a piece on myself focusing on hereditary Alzheimer's, because you're more prone to get it if it comes from your mother's side, and it usually skips a generation. So if my grandmother had it, I'm probably prone on getting it. Another idea could be, I could also further explore how the mind is affected, so looking more at like the different parts of the brain. So I say that's the piece that will guide me more on my next pieces. Thank you.
you.